The beginning of a design process is the recognition of a problematic condition and the decision to find a solution to it. Think of it like this. Imagine you walk into a room and it's so dark, noisy, or cramped. That discomfort in the room is a problem. An architect doesn't just complain about that problem. He looks at the problem, he finds a solution to it, and that's the beginning of design. What then is art? In the words of Pierre Hing, art is solving problems that they can be formulated before they are solved. Hence, the shaping of the question is part of the answer. Think of arts like cooking without a recipe. You may not know exactly what dish it will be, but you start mixing, testing, until it becomes better. Finally, you might have a delicious meal. That's exactly the same way architecture is. We have talked of arts. What then is architecture? Architecture is the process of conceiving, designing, and realizing based on correspondence on an existing set of conditions. Those conditions could be natural, such as climate, heat, terrain. For example, there's a house in Morocco. They use stick walls to keep out heat. We have others such as the social, the economic, and the political. For example, like building houses to accommodate rapid growth. So it is assumed that the initial set of conditions is the problem. And now, using those initial sets of conditions, the solution, which is by conceiving, designing, through that process, is called architecture. Hence, we can say architecture is a problem-solving design process. So you might be wondering, what is the initial set of conditions? It varies depending on the kind of architecture we are talking about. For example, in the construction of a residential house, the initial set of conditions should be the initial data which will be collected, which could be the surveyor's data. Very important. The kind of house the client wants. Does he want a duplex? In a duplex, does he want a living room? Does he want how many bedrooms? Formulating that initial set defines the kind of answer the client wants. With that said, let's understand the rules of an architect. So the first rule of an architect is documenting the initial set of conditions. This initial set of conditions could be climate, weather, the terrain, user needs. For example, in a duplex, social background of the person, the cultural context. And this is just like a doctor carrying out diagnosis. If he does the wrong diagnosis, the patient will misdiagnose, and this will not bring a solution to the patient, which in this case, the patient is the client. The second rule of an architect is to get those initial set of conditions and create order. So an architect shapes form, space, and order in a way that organizes human activity. For example, in a hospital, an architect arranges the emergency unit such that it's easier to access, and he equally makes sure that the visitors don't move into long-ending corridors. So he takes that into consideration in his design. Point number 3, an architect is also seen as an interpreter of human needs. Architecture isn't just about buildings, it's about people. These structures are constructed for human needs. So they translate our economic, social, and cultural needs into form, space, in order. For example, in Japan, they prefer smaller, cozy rooms. This is because of their cultural relevance on intimacy. But for the Americans, they prefer open plan area for gatherings. While for us Africans, we like massive space because of social gatherings. Rule number 4, an architect is the mediator between science and arts. So architecture also involves the creative aspect, which could be like aesthetics. Aesthetics, in other words, could be like beauty. And the other part, which is the technical aspect, which has to do with materials, the textures, the kind of structures, the climate, which is very, very important. So think of a structure like the Eiffel Tower. It has a cultural significance and it's an engineering marvel at the same time. So a good architect bridges the gap between utility and aesthetics. The fifth role of an architect is the shaper of experience. So architects generally define how people feel and move in a space. For example, walking into a cafe makes you feel cozy. Into the cathedral, we feel like, oh, look at the ceiling. So architects are like movie directors. They shape your experience even without you notice it. The seat, which is very, very important. Architects are all problem solvers.